So, Acho, has Chris Paul been a disappointment in the finals?
So, Chris Paul has been a huge disappointment, man. I'm getting shades of LeBron first year in Miami finals vibes. Now, not that drastic.
Come on.
Not that drastic.
It's not even close.
But it is close because both very underwhelming. In the finals, you're supposed to be the best version of yourself. You're not supposed to be the same version of yourself, and you're definitely not supposed to be a worse version of yourself.
Really?
Big-time players, big-time plays, and big-time games. Every finals game is a big-time game. Thus, the big-time players need to be making big-time plays. And not only has Chris Paul not gotten better, many could argue he's gotten worse. So, we all want to see Chris Paul win. I know you and Chris Paul have some sort of friendship. We all want to see him win. 36 years of age, been in the league for 16 years, just played amongst four different franchises, 5 different cities. Like, we all want to see him get it. But I'm not going to turn a blind eye to the fact that Chris Paul ain't even trying to get it as much as we want to see him get it.
Talk to you.
Conference semifinals, conference finals, NBA finals. The last 3 series, Chris Paul has continued to wane in each and every one of those series. Conference semis, he averaged 25-10. Conference finals, he averaged 24-9. In the NBA finals, he's averaging 21-9 as we round up. As I look at it, Sel,
how you look?
Chris Paul, you're supposed to be the man, not a guy. You're supposed to be the guy. And yet, you just out here playing as if it's a regular season game, giving me regular season type of numbers.
You're cracking me up.
It's the biggest moment of your career. Sel can't want it more than you. I can't want it more than you. And statistically, I need to see more. So I am largely disappointed in what I've seen from CP3.
You are? Oh, my God. One, you missed a moment when I first started this off. You should have said, next question. I guarantee you, if Chris Paul wasn't sitting next to Devin Booker had some words to say. But, you know, when your boy there, like, if they ask me something shady about you, I'm like, you see how Devin Booker looked at Chris like, next question. Damn it. We missed a moment there as well. I totally disagree with you, and it's not because of my likability and friendship with Chris Paul. I'm his friend. I don't know if he's my friend. One of those, like Chris called me, but I can't call you because I got his number. All right, but no, Chris, my dog. But I don't never, ever let a friendship get in the way of doing some objective analysis. And let's talk about Chris Paul. Let's start here because I don't want to talk about Chris Paul in totality. Let's just start with the Phoenix Suns, because you brought up all the different teams he's obviously had a positive impact on, including my Clippers. CP3 is averaging more points per game in the postseason than he did in the regular season. Let's just start there, okay? So you're seeing a better version of CP3 in the postseason than the regular season. Let's talk about how he's shooting better from the three-point line in the postseason than he did in the regular season. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that his turnovers per game are fewer in the postseason than in the regular season. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how his minutes per game are up in the postseason versus the regular season at 36 years young. Let's talk about that. I'm just trying to give you some perspective because I know King of Omission over there with his full screens will make everybody's thinking, oh, Chris Paul tripping. Chris Paul CP 1.5. But let's talk about how he's had 3 30-point games this postseason, and he only had 2 in 72 regular season games. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. But let's not just stay that wide, and let's not go career-wide. Let's go a little different. Finals versus the rest of the postseason. Since Acho wants to talk about, when you say big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games.
Talk about it.
Well, before the finals in the postseason and during the finals in the postseason, minutes per game, up in the finals. Points per game, up in the finals. Assists per game, up in the finals. Field goal percentage, up in the finals. 3-point percentage, up in the finals. But somebody in turquoise, I think that's turquoise, teal, I don't know, Jacksonville. Point being is trying to make me think and mislead our viewers that Chris Paul's not being CP3. Let me hear this CP 1.5 talk again.
My dog, I like how you went there because now we got to fight. I threw a quick jab, he bobbed it, he threw a left hook. Okay, now we boxing.
Let's go.
In sports, you're not competing against you. We started off the show, Marcellus Wiley said it's you versus you, Acho, when it comes to these outfit competitions.
Winning, bro.
That's in outfits. But in sports, it's not task-oriented, people. Task-oriented is, hey, is Emmanuel Acho better than his former self? Sports are goal-oriented. And goal-oriented is, hey, is Emmanuel Acho better than Marcellus Wiley? Is Marcellus Wiley better than Emmanuel Acho? That's why we love track and field.
Yeah.
Because I can run a faster time today than I did yesterday compared to myself. But how did I rank amongst everybody else? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So I love that you mentioned Chris Paul's minutes per game are up, his points per game are up, his assists per game are up. All of that is great. But when I look on the flip side, Giannis's points per game are up too.
Yeah.
Giannis's boards are up too.
Yeah.
And Giannis's points are up more than CP3's points are up. His boards are up more than CP3's assists might be up. Middleton's points are up more than CP3's points might be up. It's no longer Chris Paul, are you better than the Chris Paul you were in the regular season? It's now Chris Paul, are you better than how much better the Bucks are getting better? Because that's what it comes down to, Sal. I look at it like this.
Yeah, but,
Michael Jordan is the greatest scorer of all time. He's not the greatest passer, not the greatest rebounder, he's the greatest scorer. And in 37 playoff series, Michael Jordan led all scorers in 36 of them. So what Michael Jordan does best, which is score, when it came time for him to do it best, he did it best.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Chris Paul, what are you the best at? You're 5th all-time in NBA history in steals. You're the point guard, they call you, which means you should lead in assists and you should be nowhere near the top in turnovers. What Michael Jordan did best was score, and when he needed to do it best, he did it best. Chris Paul, I need you to get these steals. But how come you only have 3 steals this series? Last game, 8 players had more steals than you, Chris Paul. 8 of them. Chris Paul, you're the point guard. You're not supposed to turn the ball over. How come you lead the series in turnovers? In game 4, you had just as many turnovers, 5, as the entire Milwaukee Bucks team had collectively, 5. So, Sel, it's not that Chris Paul might not be better than he was in the regular season. That's cool. But in sports, it's not about you versus you. Is Chris Paul gotten better than Chris Paul? More than Giannis has gotten better than Giannis. More than Middleton has gotten better than Middleton. More than Drew has gotten better than Drew. And I think the answers are abundantly clear that they're no.
No, they're not abundantly clear. Even though you're giving a great presentation right now, I think it's flawed. Not because of you, because you're presenting exactly the evidence as given. It's flawed because you're having a narrative conversation versus a numbers conversation. And in a narrative conversation, I understand the perception of Chris Paul, hey, this ain't what we expected. Think about why we are not seeing exactly what we expected. Because he hit the dance floor too damn hot. After you beat the Clippers single-handedly, it seemed like in Game 6, everyone was sitting there like, oh, well, Chris Paul, here we go. Then he starts off this series in Game 1 when he goes out there and has 32 points. That's the problem. That's not Chris Paul. Chris Paul is not the end of the Clipper series, and Chris Paul's not Game 1 of this series. Chris Paul's an 18-9 guy. And that's how he became the point guard. He's giving you more now, and people are saying that's not enough because everyone's expectation in narrative is, if it were me, first time in the finals, you know what I would be doing? First of all, you sound like the homeboy said, man, if that dude would have walked up to me and bumped me, I would have. No, you wouldn't have. Because in the finals, you're playing the toughest opponent, at least from the Eastern Conference. And in that respect, the other team is getting paid too, Acho. Other team is putting up hella resistance. And Chris Paul is still competing at a higher level than his career averages. That's part one. So it's a narrative versus numbers conversation. So I get why you're on that side. Our reverence and respect for Chris Paul and the game that he has is making us exaggerate what we want to see and what we're actually seeing out of Chris Paul. Let me give you this stat. CP3 is the only Suns starter with a negative plus minus through Game 5. Only one.
Okay.
Right.
That don't help you. Where you going?
I'm giving you why I know why you over there. Why, this wrong show. We ain't arguing. He has a negative plus minus, right? So everyone's looking at him like, well, there it is. Like you just jumped on. He's the one. He's the reason. But they don't understand you're still getting more out of Chris Paul than you do in normal situations. Juxtapose that negative plus minus with this. Chris Paul has the most wins he's ever had in the postseason.
Okay.
Chris Paul's numbers are up versus the regular season. His numbers are up in the finals versus the rest of the rounds in the postseason. And juxtapose it like this. He has the most assists per game that he's had in the postseason in 4 years. He has a 44% three-point percentage, the best since 2014. I'm saying Chris Paul versus Chris Paul is better. But y'all disappointed in what? A version of Chris Paul that you have never seen.
But the kicker is, all that stuff sounds good, but I don't
real.
care.
Why don't you care?
Why don't I care?
Oh, I'm going to interrupt you
because
as soon as you say this.
LeBron James is not a...
Go ahead.
He's not a 35, 10, and 5 guy. He's not.
Oh, you're going to make my
He's
point.
not.
I knew you were going to go here.
He's a 27, 8, and 8 guy.
Okay.
He's not a 35, 10, and 5 guy.
Nope.
But in game 7s, LeBron is a 35, 10, and 5 guy.
Yeah.
So we don't usually see LeBron getting 35, 10, and 5. But when it matters most, LeBron gives us his best version of himself.
But that's not your fullest point.
No, it's not my fullest point.
I know you're going to
But
go
2018 NBA Finals, Game 1, LeBron is severely outmatched against the Golden State Warriors. He's not a 51-point scorer. You know that, I know that, we all know that. He's not a 51-point scorer.
Yeah.
But in the biggest moment, Game 1, before he breaks his hand, LeBron gives you 51. So, no, Chris Paul is not a 30-point scorer. He's not a 30 and 15 guy.
He's not even a 20-point scorer.
He's not.
Okay.
But Giannis also is not a 32 and 13 guy.
Giannis
but
is
in
not
the finals, he's 32 and 13.
Giannis is not in this question. Has he been a disappointment? Chris Paul, track and field, you versus you. He's not been. However, perception is, we expect more.
Saying.
See,
I see what you're
that's
saying.
part one. And here's my part two. This is
saying.
why I was going to interrupt you, but you made my point so well for me, I ain't even have to interrupt you. LeBron James in 2 different series I can remember of late that he led all statistical categories for both teams. And one of those finals, he won. And one of those finals, he lost.
Yes, sir.
Now, my point is, the one that he loses, all of a sudden you're going to say, we're disappointed in LeBron James because you told me it's about outcome. I can't. Since they're down in this series 3-2, all of a sudden you're disappointed in the same Chris Paul that if they were up 3-2 with the same numbers that are better than his normal numbers, how are you going to be disappointed in that?
I see what you're saying. I'm no longer upset at your take because now I understand your take.
Thank you.
I understand. I still don't agree with it, but at least I understand your take.
Let's go.
The reason I'm disappointed is because it's like this, Sel.
What?
Track and field. Y'all know we track and field, big baby. We track and field. Even if you run better in this race than you've ever run before in your life in track and field.
You PR and lose.
But here's what I look at.
You better stop.
If somebody runs a personal best in a race, did everybody run personal bests?
Oh, come on.
It's happening in Olympic trials.
It's happening to your homegirl.
If everybody runs a personal best and you still lose, then I can't applaud your personal best because everybody did that. So now that's status quo. So Chris Paul, if you are outscoring what you typically do in the regular season, but so is Giannis, and so is Book, and so is Middleton, and so is Drew Holiday, and so is Jay Crowder, then I can no longer be impressed with you having a personal best because everybody has personal bests. Now I need your best to outdo their best because it's not about Chris Paul ending the series and us saying, man, Chris Paul, he was better than his former version of himself. No, it's Chris Paul, he was better than the Bucks. It's not about Chris Paul being better than Chris Paul. I need Chris Paul to be better than the Bucks, or at minimum, I need Chris Paul to be his best version of himself. And this version isn't better than the conference semis version. And it's not better than the conference finals version. This ain't even the best version of Chris Paul we've seen in the series, Sal. If Chris Paul was giving us 26 and 10, 26 and 11, I would shut up. I would relent to the fact that this is the best version of Chris Paul we've seen in the playoffs. But Sal, this is Chris Paul's second best playoff series out of 4. And it is his worst playoff series in which he has been healthy. Because remember the Lakers series, he was not healthy. So with all that being said, congratulations, Chris Paul. You're better than you were in the regular season. So is everybody else.
Golly, I'm glad you don't have kids just yet with that mindset. You are an absolutist. And your absolutism is going to make you skip over steps of appreciation. When you have a kid and MJ, he comes home and he did his best, and it's actually certified he did his best by time, by certificate, by accolade. I don't give a damn what anybody else did. You are not a disappointment. Now, when me and my wife start talking to have a glass of wine, it's sorry, little boy got 9th place. I'm whooping. I'm not joking like that. Seriously, you got to build them up. What's the old saying? It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
Yes, sir.
You are looking at Chris Paul like he's broken just because you know the results. Now, in those other series, we know the results. They won. Chris Paul was horrible in the Lakers series. Let's just go there. And nobody wants to say nothing back. He was hurt in 2 series. He was hurt again against the Clippers as well. Corona. So the point is, when we know the outcome, we all of a sudden color in the lines differently. In this situation right now, the outcome looks like not good for you, Phoenix Suns and Chris Paul. So we're coloring the lines in differently. But I don't like that absolutism that you are trying to make me understand. Let's make it personal. Let's talk about how this personally, Chris Paul has been a better version of Chris Paul. Now, is there more necessary to get the task done? Yes. But are you disappointed in me? Because this is one thing I heard from coaches. I never played in a championship game at the pro level. And not even in college because we didn't have bowl systems. But in high school and everything else I did. Now, one thing coaches used to always say to us is like, I don't need you to be more than yourself. Because what got us here will get us there. So Chris Paul is playing within his own skin and actually a tick above that. Now you're sitting there saying no, because what's happening in result is the fact that you are coming up short. Is he a disappointment to himself? No. Is the result a disappointment to the Phoenix Suns? Yes.
I don't need Chris Paul to be more than himself. No. I need him to be his best version of himself.
Okay.
What is his best version of himself?
Okay.
Closeout game against the Clippers.
Oh, yeah.
Best version of himself.
That ain't him.
Game 1 against the Bucks. Best version of himself. Closeout game against the Nuggets. I don't need him to be a different Chris Paul, but I would love to see a 30-point Chris Paul. It's the finals, big dog. It might be the only time you ever get here in life. In your 16-year career, only time you've ever been here. I don't need you to be 6'5", Chris Paul. I don't need you to be 220. I don't need you to all of a sudden be able to start windmill dunking. That's not what I need. But I would love to see the best version of your assists, the best version of your ball handling, the best version of your scoring, the best version of your decision-making, the best version of you. That's all we need, and we haven't gotten that.
Look, if someone is shooting a higher field goal percentage in the finals than they did before, a higher three-point percentage in the finals than they did before, and more points per game in the finals than they did before, I don't know what you're expecting, but them young Achos, stay still. Don't come out yet. He ain't ready.